Well, it looks like I got a little bit lost on the way home from the Browns, helping them tile out. Don't worry, seems like the rain's followed me, but I did find a place that looks somewhat familiar. Yep, we're in Terre Haute. I'm not quite sure what the locals say. At the Soil Max factory, trying to find the front door. Not sure where that's actually at. Gonna do a little factory tour, see how things are made, how they're built, and shipped out to customers. I don't know where I'm supposed to go. It does say visitors that way. We'll figure it out eventually. I just walked all the way around the building. Okay, you want to actually introduce yourself first?
All right, I'm Brian Horseman. I'm the engineer here at Soil Max. I've been here about 9 years now.
Okay.
So it's been a good while.
All right.
But this is our newest facility. We came here in 2017. We were over in Brazil, Indiana before that. That's where a lot of people know us from. But this is where all the magic happens.
Okay.
So this is our fab department. All the machines where we'll cut, bend, drill. We have a couple CNC machines. So all the raw steel that comes in, we'll cut it and make it into individual parts. So everything comes in the big garage door, whether it's going straight to the warehouse or coming over here to the fab department. We'll cut it up, make it into those individual parts to then go get welded.
Are you making it one per plow, or do you run like batches of certain
we'll
parts?
batch it depending on what it is. So like if it's a 20-foot stick and we get 12 out of it, so we'll do jobs of 12, 24, so on. So we get less setup time to kind of maximize that material going through. So it depends on the material, that type of stuff.
For the people that don't know, what are all the products that actually Soil Max manufactures?
So if you include all of our sub-assemblies and stuff, we have 1,127 parts that we make in-house out of the 2,000. So the stuff we won't make are like hubs, cylinders, like plastic components, those type of things. So we'll be getting either cut steel, so we get like a shear, so end caps, all the tubular steel you'll see we'll cut down to size and drill. We make our own spindles. The replacement shears are all made in-house. So majority of the smaller stuff that doesn't require a burn table, we'll cut and make here.
So how many models of plows do you guys have?
We got our 3 models, our pull type, our 3-point, and then our ZD48 smaller 3-point.
Okay.
And then we got 3 models of carts as well.
You got 3 models of carts?
So we got a 3-point, pull type, or the tandem.
Okay. I didn't know you guys had a 3-point.
Yep, we got some out there we can see too when we make the full loop around.
The full loop around? All right.
So then if it comes in, it either gets warehoused or it gets set aside. You'll see we got a rack of steel where that's going to all turn into parts at some point. So they'll get a job, they'll make what they're making, and it goes back to the warehouse. And then from there, the warehouse will pull their parts depending on what jobs are going through based on those sales orders. So and I think we're going through 60, 70,000 pounds of material moving through a week. So it's not just pulling little stuff. You got the big tubes that you'll see. So this is where you start to see the individual components that you may see on a plow. Like that is the main tube of your pull type plow, is just an individual piece. So we have parts as small as a 1-inch square end cap. Then you have a 1,000-pound tube, all in the same warehouse type stuff.
And all this gets moved around with forklifts, I'm assuming?
Yep. So we got a couple different size fork trucks to get in and out, and then all this stuff is just organized for, like, it's our pull type plow section. So we got some hubs, like those assist pull points. There's the thickest part that we make. That's that wheel brace frame on your pull type.
Oh, okay.
And then there's like the front hitches.
And what kind of steel is this then?
So it just depends, like this is a T1, we got A572, which is a hardened steel as well, and then if it's just like end caps, we'll do like an A36 steel. So just depending, is it seeing a lot of stress or not? And we'll
so what would be the difference in between, for instance, the T1? I know you guys advertise T1 steel quite a bit.
Yeah, so T1 is out of our shanks, that's more in that 100,000 pound yield strength. A572 is in about half that, 56 to 60,000 pounds, and then mild steel is 36,000 pounds. Okay. So you got about 3 times the yield strength out of T1 compared to mild steel.
Okay. Is there a weight difference or anything like that in between?
Yeah, it's
those?
a little more dense, so it just depends on like your carbon input and the different materials they're adding. So everything past this brick wall is our manufacturing facility. So this is where everything's going from those individual components that were brought into the warehouse or made up front, and this is where they're getting put together to those sub-assemblies that then to get painted and put together as the final product. So like here you see a boot J. Over here he's got his whole bay is set up just to build this. So he'll come in, have a job. He's building these 4-inch J's right here. He'll tack them up, put them all together, and then they'll finish weld them. Depending on, we can have 2 people working on it. We have 1 person working on it, so just depending on what the schedule is for that week going through.
So raw goods are on that end.
Yeah, on that half the building. So we're about 400-foot long building.
Okay.
Material comes in the front, it's made, warehoused. Whole job comes back here to its individual bay. We got boot sides, J's.
So it looks like what, 1 person would be working in this section,
Yep.
most likely?
Yep.
Builds the boot and then tests it to make sure it actually fits. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So then you got like this bay over here is a cart tabletop. So you can kind of see it looks like one. So that's the part that actually pivots up and down with the spindle rides on. And then so we just have a different bay set up for each sub-assembly.
So does 1 person pretty much like the boot maker? Does he make boots every day of the week?
So we like to rotate our employees too, so that they are cross-trained. So if you're off for vacation for 2 weeks, that we can't not make boots that week.
Okay.
So we rotate guys around so they are always doing something a little different. You have some specialists in those areas, like our boot guy. That was his primary job for the last 10 years. So he's the specialist in that area compared to someone like the new guy who started a couple weeks ago.
And then obviously like welding is a big part of everything like this. Do you guys train welders or bring them in, or how does that work?
Yeah, so they'll come in, do a test. If we're hiring a new guy, just pull some scrap, do that welding experience, and then you start them up on small stuff, and then they work their way up. So if we go into our shank, we use a lot bigger welder than you'd have. We're using 16th solid core wire. So it's one of the biggest wires you can get on a MIG welder here. So that's where you're putting a lot of heat too. It's not just, I can weld without a glove real quick. It's heavy duty welds.
How much of everything's actually welded by human and versus robot?
100%.
100%. That's really cool.
So like in a shank like this, there's a little over 1,000 inches of weld. So if you imagine it takes you 12 inches of weld per minute, it adds up to be quite a bit.
Very cool.
But they'll start piecing their pieces together based on their work process, and then until like this is pretty much I think ready to go, put together, and then you have the main tube right down the aisle next to it, a wheel frame that's already built. So then they'll put all these together.
So are your individual like say bays and sections kind of broken up into a workflow where like the neck should be about done the same time as a shank is done?
Yeah, and we've tried to work on things to balance it. So like line balancing. So if this takes 5 hours and this is 4 hours, how do we take an hour out of that so that they're done at the same time?
Or just put the slower guy on this one. There you go. Problem solved.
With the new guy in.
We don't have any of those here.
So you get like the cart top small wheel, what we call.
Okay.
So you can start to see has each component. And then we have an older building here. This building was built in 1911, 1912. Then we moved in
Used to be a
here.
foundry. So we
Foundry?
converted it, yeah.
Yeah, so we got to work around some of that because all the poles and stuff aren't moving. So as you can see, we got to work around that as you get these large parts in and out of here.
Okay.
Yeah, the first day we walked in here, man, there was fire in here, open flame underneath a kettle.
Oh
The
geez.
foundry, it's like, okay.
Yeah, so there's a heat treat furnace and a foundry, and they used
We might
to,
have to change a few things.
back in the day, they used to have a room up here, and the guy would drop metal down in the pot, so they'd hoist it up. I need 400 pounds.
I wouldn't want that job.
Yeah,
They said those guys didn't stick around.
it was like 130 degrees down here, so you don't know what it is up there, but
Way hotter.
a fun day. So you can see we just got different bays for whatever sub-assembly we're putting together as the jobs come through.
It really doesn't
3-point
start
pull
looking
type.
until completed, until you get back in the last fourth, really, when they start
Yep.
putting everything back together.
And then you got some of our cart components. So there's a frame of a cart going together, and then a big wheel right next to it. So that way, the welder gets the job, and they can just go right to their bay, start working. They get a new job, they can go right to the next bay, start working. They don't have to tear down and set up.
Okay.
that type of stuff. And then depending
All
on,
the parts that need for any upcoming jobs are pre-staged for them.
yeah, so the
So
warehouse,
someone's bringing them parts
Yep.
all the time. Yep.
so the warehouse will pull that job, and then we got them on a split shift, so they'll stock the shelves every night, so
I
you're not
gotcha.
having to go get your own parts or less downtime.
So like, do you build, for instance, pull type plows for a certain amount of time and then you switch to a different model, or is it just kind of like?
Yeah, we used to build, say, like 5 pull-type plows this week, next week's 3-point plows, but as we've grown, to get more lean, we're just building to as our sales orders are coming in, so we'll probably group them in at 2. You'll do 2 pull types and then 2 3-points, maybe doing 3 3-points, so it's just based off those sales orders, or 2 carts and then a
For
pull
sure,
type.
there's times we'll do like 2 weeks of pull types. You know, the guys think, oh, we're just doing pull types all of a sudden, but it's how the orders come in.
It's just how the orders come in.
Yep.
How long would it take you to switch from going, say, from the pull type to a 3-point?
It just, so everything's about a 4-hour process per sub-assembly on the high, and so that 4 to 5 hours. So if he's, after his 4 or 5 hours, as soon as he's done, he just walks over to the next bay, pulls his ticket, clocks in, and starts working.
Okay.
We've got a stage for him.
So
Okay.
Because
every-
typically what they're gonna do, I don't know if you explained that already, but they're gonna work on a plow in the morning and a cart in the afternoon.
Okay.
So while they're doing the cart, they're getting the plow stuff. If it needs to switch over to a different bay, then they can do that.
How many people work in the manufacturing?
So total, we got about 3 guys in the fab department, 3 guys in our warehouse shipping department. We got about 6 or 7 welders. And then you got the finishing crew. You have about another 5 people with paint assembly and paint prep. So I think we're about 18 guys in the whole manufacturing facility
Okay.
that touch the parts on a given day.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
And then you got another.
Brian's our math guy. He can talk, throw numbers out and add them up at the same time.
Oh, yeah.
We're proud of that.
The one I actually ran into you guys at the farm show, one of the biggest questions I got was, are the plows now black?
They are.
That was
25th anniversary.
And I didn't know
special.
that. I didn't know that. I thought maybe they were just for a short. Is that a short period of time, or are they going to continue
That's a good question.
to get the unknown at this
You
time?
want to be the one to drop this story or what?
So unknown at this time.
We think they're probably going to stay black. I mean, it is a 25th anniversary edition. But you're going to see the paint booth here in a second, and the ability to not switch between yellow and black is saving us time. And if that's the case, and the customer feedback's been awesome. They
Oh,
like
I think the black ones look slick.
Yeah, so there's probably no reason to go back to.
So you got black carts, everything's
Yeah, black
black now.
carts,
So
So yeah, they're probably here to stay. So you can drop that story on, you know.
It was a big scoop.
It was a big scoop. Oh yeah, people have been waiting for that.
parts get welded, they're done. They'll make it down to this general area, and this is paint prep. So they're gonna make sure all those little weld beads are ticked off, cleaning the welds so that wipe it down so that you have a good paint adhesion. But so you have different areas. We got the big crane ahead because you have to pick up that whole frame and then put a shank in together. So now you're moving around 2,000-3,000 pound parts trying to hook them together with the one big bolt there. So we'll clamp everything together, put it together, and it almost looks like it's pre-assembled. And then it'll go into the paint booth on some roller skates, which we got one around the corner. And then out comes paint and then to assembly. This is the biggest thing. We used to paint in like a garage, so moving into this building definitely opened up some opportunities for us. We got about a 30 by 25 foot paint booth, so 3 million BTU furnace on it, so we'll bake all that paint. So we'll prep it, then we'll prime it, and then we'll bake the black right on top.
Is it actual paint or is it powder coat or is?
It's actual paint.
It's
so
actual
it's more
paint.
like an oil-based paint
Okay.
that we're spraying on.
There's the roller skates.
Yeah. So this is a plow. As you saw, the shank over there, the main tube, the wheel frame, and then it gets put together. We put some roller skates on it. A jack. It's been wiped down, or they may have to do a final wiping, get all that dust off of it, and then.
So can you tell what is mild versus T1 because
so
of the color?
Yeah, your green, we get it coated because these big parts generally sit outside a lot longer because can't put a couple thousand pounds on a shelf fairly easily. So a lot of this green steel will sit outside before it comes inside. So this is just a prime coating. They put on it from the manufacturer so it's not rusting while it's sitting outside.
Well, okay, yeah.
But generally, yeah, your green stuff is our T1, which you can see the shank, our side plates, and then all the tubular stuff is what's a A500 tubular stuff. So that's in that middle grade that we talked about earlier.
Okay.
And then just as you piece and part things around, you got some T1 hooks and stuff. So the stuff that you'll chain down and hook to, that's not going to wear or break just from putting those chain binders on.
You can paint quite a bit in here, can't you?
Yeah, works out well. You get 2 or 3 plows in at a time. But that's the hard part. So, and then just depending as stuff comes out, we got different bays set up back here as well. So this pull type plow, I saw in one of your videos, this one's going overseas, so it's not on the skates like this one is. So this one just came out of paint. You'll put the tires on, work through the process of putting all the finished goods on it. So we generally do that in this area, so you can use the crane to put those big cylinders on. We'll build 3-point plows and then carts, because you can usually handle all those stuff without a crane. We'll go over here. So they'll come off of its skates, put on the axle, put together, and then outside we'll put that big wheel on and bolt it down and out the door it goes.
How many countries are you guys shipping plows to now?
Pretty much anyone that wants one. We've gone,
10 now at least.
yeah, I think we've gone South Africa, did they get one? Australia, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, New Zealand. Was it Croatia got that mini plow? We shipped one on an airplane once, a mini plow in a crate.
Latvia, Estonia, Ukraine, France, Germany,
Yeah.
Sweden, Norway.
So we made a big push in 2018 to expand that European market. So we can show you some stuff outside. They do more of a gravel around their pipe or the sock pipe stuff. So we've made some custom things. We made them narrower because they have a lot smaller tractors than you see in the States. So like a 200-300 horsepower tractor is a real big tractor on their farm. So we've modified some things to meet that market. And then about once a month or every 2 months, we're sending a container somewhere in the world.
Can people in the States get those modifications, sort of like French draining stuff? Can they?
If they want to.
If they want to. For maybe somebody that's not doing it for agriculture, but maybe like they want to do parking lots and the parking lots need drainage.
We've got no reason to not do it.
Not to do it?
Yeah, it's not real popular
Yeah.
in North America.
The bigger advantage people would see is like on our ZD 1200, we can carry an onboard reel to carry those 150-foot rolls. We get a lot of interest for guys in like orchards and vine crops that want to put pipe in to be able to carry that pipe on the plow.
So we pretty much made a mini tile cart that just bolts right on the side of a 3-point plow. Just use those little miniature rolls.
Yeah. And that's like one of the questions that I get a lot of actually people that would watch it from overseas and stuff is, why aren't you backfilling with gravel? Because that's actually like kind of a standard practice for a lot of places.
And that's why we built the ag box, or the aggregate box.
And
so we'll see one of those pretty soon.
And we don't actually have to do that. So have you guys had any issues with steel or anything like that?
As far as coming in,
Yes.
no. Our steel supplier, Alro, out of Indianapolis, they never missed a delivery all through the pandemic. We've had slowdowns because of other issues, other parts that couldn't come in, but the steel, I mean, we get 3 loads at least a week, maybe
Yeah, sometimes
5
you'll
or
see
6.
3 trucks from the same
Yeah.
railroad company here in the
Super
same
company
day.
to work with. They never missed a beat. They kept our welders going all through the pandemic.
Is it U.S. steel?
Pardon me?
Is it U.S. steel?
Yeah. I'd say like 99% of what we get is, you might get like cast hubs or something like that, or harder to find in the U.S.
Some fasteners.
Yeah, some bolts
nuts
and stuff. But we made a good push when I first started back in like 2015. Like all U.S. cylinders, electronic stuff. We're trying to go everything we can get U.S. made is what we made that choice years ago. So then you get out the back to the lot, and then you start to see as we store stuff like boot J's. You got your different sizes. Like that's the European load that's getting ready to go out.
Let's
So
look
that's
at
the
that.
ag box that's on there that you'll see more in the European market. Ag boxes, aggregate, whether you want to run rock or chips through it.
So is this aggregate box removable, or is it just?
It bolts on just like the boot J does, where you have that same mounting point. We'll drill a second hole because you got all that extra weight.
Yeah,
So
so the box itself is not removable from the J.
Okay.
So if they want to put in tile the same size without aggregate, then they'll have a J, just like what you would have.
Okay.
Here's the frames to those shanks that we saw. Flip them, invert them, just get them so we can put them in that container. Get the most bang for your buck when you're shipping it somewhere else in the world. That 3-point cart that we were talking about earlier. So the top half's all the same, just a square frame with a 3-point hitch on the front. So here's these are ZD 1200s. So it's your standard ZD 48 with some
Slight
few minor tweaks to it, but those will be going probably overseas. So they're probably getting 6 3-point plows and 2 mini plows all in the same container.
Okay.
So they'll be getting 8 plows plus all the accessories, and that fills the container pretty good.
Which size pipe can these install?
2 to 4.
2 to 4.
So same thing with the ZD 48.
Yeah.
So you got the same attachments, just everything's a little smaller and you can handle a little better. And then you got your 3-point and then your pull types down there.
Well, so start to finish for plow, how long does it take to make it through?
We give it about a week.
About a week.
Just depending on what's going through, but by the time it gets from welding to paint to assembly on the lot, so if we say it's going to be built on Wednesday, next Wednesday, we could be shipping it.
Okay. Very cool. Anything else? Anything? He needs a YouTube channel. I've never seen someone actually flow through a place. Unless you've given that to her like 100 times or something like that.
He's just good.
That was kind of interesting. You stop at a place to ask for directions and they give you a factory tour. No, just kidding. That was pretty cool. I always like kind of seeing those factory, how things are made. It almost makes you a little more knowledgeable, fill in whatever word you want to there, about the products that you're running. If you guys are interested in anything else SoilMax wise, I'll leave their website down below so you guys can check it out. Or you can Google SoilMax. It'll take you there as well. But we've made it back home, back in southern Iowa, back with the Blue Dog. We'll see you guys in the next one.
You gotta tell me about your senior project.
Yeah, I mean this mini plow pretty much was my senior project in college.
Okay.
So I was interning at SoilMax. That's how I got started. When Ag Leader bought SoilMax, that's when we started to build more of a larger company than a farmer owned. So you had it contracted out welding. So when we all came on, we're looking, how can we reach a market that we don't already have? And so we just took our 3-point model and I took it to our class and we just shrunk it down. So that was the whole summer pretty much of working on that, shrinking everything down to size. We built a prototype. We shrunk it down a little too small.
Made it a little bigger.
Made it a little bit bigger to get the 48 inches. Yeah, there's one over there. It's a little shorter.
Yeah, the very first ZD48's right there.
So just going from shrinking it down in the computer, we run everything through a 3D software where we're building it called Creo. Kind of like what a lot of people would use, SolidWorks. So we drew it all up, modeled it all, built a prototype. Then we built 4 prototypes and then went all over the country testing them in different soils. I think the first place was down in Kentucky in some clay tobacco ground.
Yep.
That one was, the clay was so tight that you could see the pipe at the 40 inches or so that was in. After it went through, like 5 minutes later, you could still see straight down.
So did you get an A?
I believe so. I'll have to go look at that. Maybe an A minus.
I don't know that he had anything less than an A. So.
I don't either. I think you got a...
I would guess so.
Yeah.
It was a little different than some of the other kids' projects where they had a padlock or something.
So actually the first place we really tested the 48 in the ground, those guys ended up buying the very first ZD48 we
Yeah.
sold. They liked
They
it
wanted
that much.
They wanted serial number 1.
They're
Yeah.
actually mad that we wouldn't just leave them to test one. So
The big thing too when we were testing is out at the farm that we use, they have a 126 horsepower Kubota.
Yep.
So the goal was to fit on that tractor and have it to be able to pull. So that was our goal tractor, which you don't really see a 125 horsepower Kubota pulling tile plows very
No,
often.
you do not.
So we added some extra weight. It had good tires and stuff on it. But I think we brought that tractor out to Iowa.
Yeah.
And then Ag Leaders Test Farm, we got to the 48 inches by itself with no assist tractor.
And then
So-
pulled it.
It pulled them. Yep.
Met our goal.
In a senior project.